dynamic pairing of Maro Engel and Lukas Stolz is really on scintillating form. And they've already scored 2 wins on the Nürburgring Nordschleife this year, so they start the event as favourites, as Stolz explains.
Imola was a busy weekend for us. I think we were not that bad. We were 6th in qualifying, but then it was a messy start, and then we got pushed out and got a drive-through. It was really messy weekend, but the pace was there. The pace was in the car, so I'm hoping to be back on the podium this week.
There's just one Lexus RCF in the race at Misano, but Aurélien Panis, a second-year Lexus racer and of course a second-generation driver, is seeking glory in a full European campaign along with his fellow French racer Thomas Neubauer, who explains the scale of their challenge.
Well, actually it's not that easy going from single-seater to GT cars, but with such a great team as Tech One makes it really easier actually. So yeah, just feel really good in this team and in this category.
If you want world-class GT racing experience, look no further than Santalok Racing's Christopher Haas, a winner of both the Spa 24 and Nürburgring 24-hour races. His new teammate is 20-year-old Arthur Rougier, and he will surely benefit from this tutelage.
Yeah, so far quite well. Arthur is very young, but super fast. We already had the first race in Imola last 2 weeks ago. He was in the Pro-Am car and showed already his pace that he's just on it. And looking forward for this race now.
Japanese racer Riachiro Tamita moves to GT3 after many years of racing in the GT300 category in Japan. And he has, in South African star Kelvin van der Linde, one of the 3 winners in Imola's opening race, the GT World Challenge Endurance Series, sitting alongside him.
I mean, every year is different. You have to adapt, obviously. New teammate, the pit stops are very important in sprints, so you need to have the dynamic of really working together well. It needs to kind of like just gel together, and that's what we're building up now. Like I said, first weekend, so we're starting slow, building up the relationship, and by the end of the year, we should be a well-oiled machine. Well, I mean, GT World Challenge is always coughing up a couple of surprises, which is always great. Good racing, intense action on track, so I don't expect anything different this weekend. I think it's on us to stay out of the mess and hopefully repeat what we did in Imola.
Long-time Ferrari test driver Andrea Bertolini is looking for the 5th year in succession to help Louis Michiels to shoot for glory in the Pro-Am class. And the Italian and Belgian pairing really fancy their chances in their fabulous-looking AF Corsa Ferrari 488 GT3, particularly here at Misano, as Michiels explains.
I'm so happy with the team of Amato Ferrari. It's a very good professional team. So we went last year for the 3rd time European champion, together with my very good friend Alberto. Andrea Bertolini and Nick Homerson. So let's hope we can do the same.
Chilean racer Benjamin Itez introduces a new nationality to the championship as he shoots for title honours in the silver class, and he has a rapid and capable teammate to support his title push in French ace Jim Pla.
Yeah, the team performs really well here at Misano. The car yesterday felt really good. We managed to do a good lap time, and that's good, so we hope we keep improving the car with the team, so that's the plan for today.
Argentinian racer Ezekiel Perez Compact's new team, Mad Panda Motorsports, is fielding a Mercedes this year from its Spanish base, bringing in Zimbabwean Lamborghini ace Axel Jeffries to help him go forward in the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Series races.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great opportunity. I've been wanting to be a part of GT World for a long time now. Ezekiel gave me a call 2 weeks ago, gave me the opportunity, so I'm super happy about that. Obviously, it's a new team, new driver pairing, but so far we've already been quite strong, and ultimately we're going for the Silver Cup Championship.
2018 World Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion Giacomo Altoe partners longtime GT racer Albert Costa out of the ML Fry Racing camp. And Italy's rising GT star is looking to spearhead Lamborghini's 2020 Sprint Series attack.
For sure it will not be easy, but it's my home race. I'm really looking forward to it with my team, Lamborghini, my teammates, so it looks everything good and everything ready for this race weekend.
Well, qualifying is over and the racing is upon us this weekend, treated not to one, but two, but three races, the first of which is this evening race at the circuit Marco Simoncelli and for GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. The stage is set perfectly. I'm Bruce Jones and I have John Watson alongside me, looking on an evening in which the temperatures are kindly starting to drop, the humidity falling slightly, but it's still going to be about track position and, of course, tyre life.
Well, certainly the ambient temperature hasn't changed a great deal, but the track temperature has dropped down. That'll be a relief for all the competitors as they're about to go into the start of this 1 hour. It's a sprint, and believe me, it will go quicker than you imagine an hour can go. Front row of the grid, looking at the Lexus, and stunning performance by the Lexus and the Bentley alongside to lock out that very important front row. Bruce, we've seen it time and time again. The start here at Misano, it's a short run down into turn one. It's a pinch point, it's a bottleneck, it's whatever you want to call it. I thought bottleneck was for playing guitars with, by the way. Anyway, aside from the comedy, it's a tight entry into turn one. Those at the front can control it. Those behind are, they're just relying on instinct, common sense, or whatever, because they need to be aware that they're going to be still on full power when those at the front are hard on the brakes.
Well, we're not hoping for a game of Skittles, but certainly sometimes luck can come your way. But fabulous to have four different makes of cars at the front of the front four positions. The Lexus on pole position, but let's go to Jules Gounon, who's sitting alongside in the 107 Bentley.
Jules, a fantastic performance from the team this weekend, getting you down into second position after the first start in Imola. You know, a great result for the team to get you into this position, being the first year for you guys.
Yeah, I didn't hear you well, but I think you asked how was the weekend going. So it has been amazing. I mean, it's the first year for the team. It shows that for the customer racing from Bentley, the amazing support from Bentley. I'm also proud to have been sent to this team to try to help them. We were quite a long way back in Imola because they were facing few issues and first race. And here we are, first race of the sprint. We are starting P2. I mean, it's really amazing. It's showing early success to the customer program direction taken by Paul Williams and Todd Johnson. So I'm super happy right now. I hope I can be more happier after the race because we are still P2. But it's an amazing start of the weekend.
Have a great race. Thank you very much, Jules.
Thank you.
Well, that's a very good point. Well made by Jules Gounon. No longer a works team, but Bentley really spreading its wings and spreading its cars to customer teams. That's classic and modern racing, CMR for short. But again, other new names at the front of the grid. Jim Pla traditionally races in a Pro-Am entry, but he put it third fastest, that ACA ASP Mercedes, so he's having a chance to stretch his wings.
Yeah, what's maybe interesting, the fact that the team ACA ASP have chosen to put Jimmy Pla in the first of the 3 rounds, where the majority of the other competitors, while Jimmy is a silver cup car, he's actually basically, I mean, his quality of driving is that of a gold driver, even a platinum. So he is probably going to benefit more from his very good starting position compared to those people around him. His ability is going to keep him with those 2 lead cars, and hopefully he'll draw away with the Lexus and the Bentley.
Then, of course, he'll hand over to his new teammate, Chilean racer Benjamin Hites, who's got so much to learn, come across to Europe. But anyhow, Jim will have his moments in the setting sunshine here at Misano. 4th car on the grid is the first of the Audis, and the Audis look really well placed, filling a lot of the top 10. And that's Charles Weerts, who put it on pole last year, but he and his teammate, Dries van Tor, won of the 2 races here 12 months ago, or last year at least, and really have to fancy their chances.
Well, the green flag is being waved, so the cars are going to make their way now for their parade lap. And everybody needs to stay in formation. Tyre temperature is not going to be an issue because the ambient's high, the track temperature, low, it's down. It's still, in relative terms, high. So just hope everybody behaves as they are required to do on this parade lap, formation lap. And then let's get this race underway as quickly as possible.
Just treated some rear-facing camera action, onboard camera action from the Bentley that's starting second on the grid. He'll hope he'll keep at least 20 of the cars behind them. 22 cars in all. We did lose one in testing. Unfortunately, TopSport WRT, one of their 2 Mercedes, had a problem. Isn't coming out to play, but we've still got 22 cars, 14 teams, 6 manufacturers. Look there on the 3rd row of the grid. Riachiro Tamita on his European debut, 5th quickest, an astonishing result from the Japanese racer. And new names as well, Tommaso Mosca, look out for him, only 20 years old, super fast. And when you look at the names that qualified behind some of these young guns, then it really is a remarkable job. But qualifying always super quick fire, 20 minutes only in each of the qualifying sessions, and it's very easy to drop the ball. Raffaele Marcello will be starting, well, he won't start the race, but Timo Bogoslawski, his teammate, will start from 14th on the grid. Raffaele has that car on pole for the first of tomorrow's 2 races. Just to reiterate, we have 3 races in all for the first time in a GT World Challenge sprint event. 1 on Saturday, 2 tomorrow. But many new faces in new places. Robin Rogalski down in 19th position, stepped up from racing the Audi R8 Cup. So it's great to have these drivers feeding up. But the names at the front are the ones that are going to have the bragging rights. And young Thomas Neubauer putting the one and only Lexus on pole position, that was great. He and the man on the outside the front row, Gunnar, really pushed for that.
Well, clearly, I mean, we saw in the qualifying sessions, we saw it even in practice sessions, that these 2 cars are right on the threshold of the ultimate pace of a GT3 car around the Misano circuit. Jules Gounon in the Bentley, Thomas Neubauer in the Lexus. Both young guys, both looking to build big careers. They've got the best opportunity they can ask for because they're on the front row of the grid. And now the race is going to be controlled by Neubauer. He's on the pole position. You see the Bentley there on the right of screen, Jules Gounon beside. So it'll be the minute they leave turn 16, they'll come down, formation, look for the lights to go from red to green. We'll be underway.
One thing that really strikes me is the ever-decreasing ages of those at the front of the grid. Neubauer is 21, Charles Weert's 19 on the second row. But we've got this amazing mix of cars. Lexus, Bentley, Mercedes, Audi, a second Audi, the best of the Lamborghinis. So, real mix of cars. 16 turns on the circuit. This is turn 16 they're approaching now, 2 by 2, 11 rows of cars. On the side away from the pit wall, that's the side that has pole position, the Lexus of Thomas Neubauer, waiting for the lights on the gantry to go. From red to green, a very quick flick, and who's read it best? Gunnar seems to have a little bit more momentum down to the first corner. Can he put the nose of that green Bentley in front? Certainly Neubauer doesn't want him to do so. Job done for Gunnar, because right hand goes to left hand. In the background, we've got one of the Audis running very wide indeed. Was that Tamita?
We've got 2 Audis, in fact, and you can see Jules Gounon trying to come back. He's trying to go the long way around, turn 3 up into turn 4. Side by side, virtually side by side into turn 4, then 5. Gounon gets shuffled out a little bit to the outside of the track, and that's the Thomas Neubauer. He is marginally ahead, so he has got the right to do that. Now, out of turn 6, and look behind, cars coming through turn 6 all over the place. I think there might have been contact just at those back end of the field, saw one car shooting off to the right.
Yeah, doing the housework, it was Nicolas Scholl who ran wide at turn 1. Somehow, though, those behind seemed to avoid it. And then at turn 3 and 4, we saw Giacomo Alto going a bit backwards, not backwards in style, but backwards in terms of position. But the grid order has been maintained at the front, with the exception of Lucas Stoltz forcing up about 4 positions in the HRT Mercedes. That's the orange one, but it's Neubauer and Alexis from Gunnar, who must have thought he managed to get through into the lead in the Bentley, but he's back in second place, and in behind, Jim Pla putting in a great performance.
Yeah, a little bit of using up a lot of the racetrack to prevent the Mercedes coming through from behind. But a good start, as you point out, from Lucas Stoltz. But the pace of the Lexus has got such good straight line performance. Jules Gounon had done the best start you could do. He had gained the advantage, but he wasn't able to maintain it. Just simply the speed this car, the black, orange and white Lexus has got, is daunting.
Only car 52's gone for rotation, one of the 2 Ferraris, both in the Pro-Am class, and that is Louis Michiels, he's sharing with Andrea Bertolini, but now his Italian teammate Bertolini's got a lot more to do to try and make that up. But up the front, super tidy, but it's Neubauer from Gunnar, Pla, and Riachiro Tamita is up from 5th to 4th place. I thought it was Charles Weerts who moved into 4th, or stayed in 4th. So the Japanese racer, really, really impressive, and he's showing he's learned the circuit quickly because he's fast, he's good in traffic too, so I think he's going to have a really amazing season now he's moved from Japan.
Thomas Bogoslawski is bringing up the tail of this lead group. There's sort of 15 cars leading the field, then there's a gap, and then the remainder of the field behind. So coming through onto their 3rd lap, down in through turn 8. Sun beginning to set here at Misano, just getting in the eyes of the drivers at certain parts of the racetrack.
I think I spotted the second Bentley not still in the running. Looks as though that was at the side of the circuit. That was the one that was being started down towards the tail end of the field. Pierre-Alexandre Jean, I'll confirm that in a moment. Yes, there it is. It stopped at the side of the circuit, unfortunately. 22nd position and out. So one Bentley running in second place in the hands of Jules Gounon, the sister car. Probably one of the ones you saw John having a little tap. And the TalkSport WRT entry in the pit lane, Robin Rogalski was supposed to start that from 19th, but maybe that was the contact, possibly with that Bentley.
Could have been. And the other Bentley, look at Jules Gounon all over the back of Thomas Neubauer. Gounon had just set fastest sector time in sector 1 on this lap. Personal best sector 2. and he is not letting the Lexus get any benefit of leading this race whatsoever. And I mean, you can just see, the effort, the commitment that Jules Gounon is putting in to the chase to try and get the green Bentley once ahead of the orange, white, and black. Look, all over the back. I mean, but all you can do if you're Thomas Neubauer is just deflect your mirror. You don't want to see what's going on behind you.
Well, if you look one way, it's going to be coming from the other side. Certainly Gounon doing everything he can to attack. He's going to hand over around the halfway point to his teammate Nelson Pansatici, who's moved across after years of racing sports prototypes and proved very quick indeed. It's a really, really strong pairing. But right now, Gounon wants to put that Bentley to the front of the field. Certainly for CMR, it's vaulted, lofty company for them to be at the front end of the field. But the way that Tech 1 Racing has stepped forward with this Lexus, John, super impressive. It goes to show nothing stands still. Even in GT racing, it's always changing.
And Lucas Stoll's getting caught in that Audi sandwich. I would say the Audi, the Mercedes is the quicker of those three cars. But of course, being quicker, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to find a way past. So he's just trying to line himself up, coming through the curves on the back straight down into turn 13. Easy to overrun coming in here. A lot of drivers we saw in practice and qualifying getting way, way, way wide this part of the racetrack. Everybody better behaved than we saw in some of the earlier sessions.
Absolutely so, but they'll have been told precisely this is how much we're going to tolerate there. At every meeting it seems to slightly change and certain corners become more favoured in terms of warnings for track limits. Always at Misano, this final corner is one that the stewards watch, but I think they must have had a warning because almost all the drivers stayed very much within the confines of the circuit there, whereas certainly in previous years, John, we've seen them over the edge, ripping up those rumble strips and a little bit of carpet underneath, I seem to recall, the sort of AstroTurf. But right now, the front two, using all the track in the most legal of ways, but Gounon, you surely feel, is quicker if he could get past.
As the difficulty is for Gounon is finding a way past. He's got a driver and a car combination which is quick on the bits of the circuit, but really can't, which are these the straight bits. You can see just the Lexus is able to stretch its legs that little bit more on the exit of turn 6 all the way down to turn 8, and that's a frustration for Jules Gounon because he's got his foot, he's pushing his foot through the firewall. If he could get it any further, he would do it, but there's just no more left. All he can hope for is the race gets into the period coming up to the pit stops, that then it's the team that will take over and rotate the car, get the driver changed done, the wheels and tyres done. That may well be the Bentley's best chance to find a way into the lead.
Jim Pla hanging on to third place, not being pushed that hard by Tamita or Motorpoint, matching the pace, just under 2 seconds down on that Riachiro, surely hoping they could delay each other a little bit more as they fight over the lead. He wants Gounon to start really he could hardly put any more pressure if he tried on the race leader, but he needs them to start losing a bit of form as they concentrate on the battle. But at the moment, I think Neubauer listened to you. He's not looking in his mirrors, he's putting the car where he wants to put it, and that is why he's not slowing down at the moment.
No, and as I just watch the car here, an acceleration out of turn 16 all the way down into turn 1. The Bentley quicker off the corner, but not able to use that advantage because the Lexus, owned by Toyota, the brand, but Lexus has just got sufficient straight line performance to really just any opportunities that Gounon might be thinking he can try to attack. Can't get it done, he can't get close enough.
And again, for any driver who lost a position or two in that first two corners, turns 1 and 2, lots of shuffling the pack, it can be almost their entire stint spent trying to get it back. At the moment, looking at the number 25 Audi, young Arthur Rougier, very quick, we know, certainly his teammate Christopher Haas, hugely impressed by him, but right now he's got to learn to do the racing as well as the qualifying. Well, he did a good job in the first.
Bruce, I must say that Rougier, when we were having these sim events earlier in the year, waiting for the real racing to get underway, it was very impressive in sim racing, and of course now going into the real deal with Christopher Haas as your teammate, he will learn very, very quickly. But you've got a group of cars all around you on a very compact 4.2 kilometre circuit, 16 corners. There is really no major straight. This is the major straight, which is a dog leg to the right, and the performance and the balance of performance between all these manufacturers is now so even, it's very difficult to see where you can gain an advantage.
To be honest, I think a lot of the place changing in this race is going to come if someone just gets a little bit wide, loses momentum. But right now, Arthur Rougier can do nothing about the Awega in front of him. Yusuf Awega, he'll hand over to his brother Hamza, putting in a really, really good performance. It's interesting when you get a new mix in the pot and certain names popping up and you think, right, I think I'd place you 16th on this list. They're running 11th. And you go, okay, good start, and you're not dropping it in traffic. But certainly the thing that surprised me most of all was I thought Jules Gounon had got the job done at the start. We're going to see a replay coming up very shortly. He seemed to have the better momentum, and yet somehow, maybe determination, kept Thomas Neubauer in front.
Well, determination, but also I keep referring back to what I'm looking at, and that is that the Lexus has got the advantage here. They're coming onto turn 6 yet again on the run down into turn 8. He's able to pull maybe a car length or maybe a couple of car lengths on Gunjo. Gunjo has got no more within the Bentley to attack. He can only attack in the twisty parts of the circuit, but he has to get himself sufficiently into, well, basically almost alongside before you get into a braking zone, and there aren't very many opportunities for him to do that.
No, it's always super tricky at Misano. There again, yet again, right in the slipstream down that kink back straight. Can do no more. He's just got to keep applying the pressure. Jim Pla not cracking at all in third place. In behind Tamita, both of those being caught by Charles Weerts, who's up to 5th place now. Lost out a bit in the first couple of corners, but he's the driver applying pressure. Then suddenly Jim Pla did start to feel the pressure. Tamita right on his tail now. The Japanese racer, a revelation this weekend. He's been racing GT300 in Japan, which is a class below, a subclass, if you will, in the Super GT. But I think there must be a lot of similarities. He's just taken to this European racing like a duck to water.
Very impressive indeed, giving Jimmy Pla a real workout. Pla went very wide coming into corners 12, 13, ran way off what I would call the racing line, but gathered it all back up together. But the Japanese driver in the Audi, I mean, he's just as if he's been doing this all his life. And while racing in Japan is intensely competitive, it's a different deal when you come into a different team, a different car, a different kind of racing, different ambient temperatures. I mean, very impressive start. Look at the gap now, slightly lengthening between first and second place, just so we get a view of these cars coming down again between turn 6 and 7 down into turn 8.
Yeah, it was up to 0.4 of a second on the start-finish line. The person making the gains, though, is in 5th place. Charles Weerts is getting closer and closer. He's within a second now of Tamita, and certainly Tamita would have lost a little bit of time along with Jim Pla when Jim ran wide down into turn number 13.
So that's the view you have sitting on board the Audi. 3rd gear, 4th gear. You'll get all the way up to 6th gear before you get to the end of the straight into 5th gear, just before this dog leg. And then the short run down into the braking area. You're braking beginning in turn 12. This is 13. Just be careful that you don't go too far right to the left. Look how much he can close up to the rear, as if the Audi has got that little bit more front end grip and bite to enable the Audi to close down the gap between the Mercedes and Audi. Now into turn 16 again, can close it up, but it's on the exit. It's the drive off turn 16 that Jimmy Pla is able to use to his advantage. And again, as we're saying, with the battle at the lead, there's not an awful lot that Gunjo can do with the Neubauer, and likewise, there's not an awful lot that we can see Tamita doing with Jimmy Pla.
No, it's found its balance, and I think the early overtaking and slightly regaining of places is now settling out, but it's about keeping things sweet in the run. We can have cars coming in when the clock at the top of the screen gets up to 35 or down to 35 minutes. We can start to have those first pits, the planned pit stops, but when will they make them?
Interestingly, the gap between first and second was running about 3/10 of a second. It's now up to 0.8 of a second. Now that's only another just a half a second gap. But you know, if you're the lead car and you can see that gap extending, or you're the following car, whichever way around it's going to be positive for one and more difficult for the other. So the Lexus has managed to contain the Bentley, and now it's beginning very slightly lap upon lap. The gap across the line this time, just wait for it to come up. It was 8.8 of a second. We're just waiting for the timing and scoring to update our timing and scoring in the commentary booth.
But again, down that kickback straight, John, I sense that Gunjon has closed in all over again.
Absolutely.
But again, it's that punch out of turn 16, the final corner, that really fires it forward. There's a car we haven't seen much of so far, running in 20th position. Chris Froggatt, the Sky Tempesta racing car, sharing with Eddie Cheever, but he's in the battle with several rivals for Pro-Am honours.
The way the car running, it looks a little bit on the left rear. It's just maybe the image coming through the straight. It looked like, I thought, a left rear tire might have been deflating, but it might just have been how the camera picked up the body language, the attitude of the car. But it seems Chris Froggatt's driving it as if there's nothing wrong.
Oh, well, absolutely so, and he's leading the Pro-Am class, so great job. Yes, Gunjon has closed right in all over again. He's not the sort of driver who's going to back off and not make a pounce whenever he possibly can, but he needs that extra car length at certain points.
The other difficulty that you've got following so closely, we talk about it every race, is temperatures. Both, engine temperatures, oil temperature, then you've got to worry about your tyres. If you run so close behind another car, you're having your pace dictated by that other car, but it is having a negative effect on the overall performance of your car. So sometimes, to allow yourself to drop back maybe up to by a second, regroup, pick up your own pace, then make another drive forward and try and force an error out of Neubauer. But so far, nothing that Jules Gagnon has been able to implement has had any bearing whatsoever.
But yet again, we saw out of turn 10 where you need to accelerate down the main straight on the circuit. The Lexus has that bit more punch, then further down the straight. Now, let's take a look at the replay of the start. Thomas Neubauer on pole position didn't seem to get the start as well done as Gagnon. Gagnon put the nose of the green Bentley in front. The next corner is a right-hander. He's got half the car length in front. At this point, I thought surely he'd taken the lead, but somehow Neubauer was quick enough into turn 3 as 2 cars behind, including Brugier's Audi, went wide. And he was able to pull across and still maintain the lead, but it was tight, super tight.
Coming out of turn 3, the Lexus and Bentley were nearly door handle to door handle, which then meant coming into turns 4 and 5, he was going to be on the inside. And we did see, as Neubauer came into turn 4, he ran the Bentley up to the outside of the corner, which is because he needed the space.
Well, taking a look at it from on board with the Lamborghini of Giacomo Alto, cars as far as the eye can see. Do I go around the outside? Because I know cars are going to be pushed wide, and so they were in front of him, nipping back into turn 2, trying to keep it straight. But you can see the twitchiness. Number 32, Charles Weerts, bouncing off the curbs and into the traffic around him.
So the lead 2 cars have stretched their advantage over the third place Jimmy Pla, Mercedes, Tamita in the Audi, Charles Weerts in the Audi, Lucas Stolz, who I thought might have made more progress but has gotten stalled out. Well, behind the Charles Weerts WRT Audi, and it's the same story. Just you can catch, but where are you going to find a way through?
Look, in the qualifying pace, Stolz in the orange HRT Mercedes was only 9th. The fact he managed to get it up challenging for 4th place showed that was him lining his ducks up through the first few corners. But in terms of pace, he's now 6th at the moment. He has been losing out ever since, and he's in the 3rd train of car. He's the car at the front of it. The best of the Mercedes is the one on the screen at the moment, number 89, Jim Pla, and his teammate, fresh to racing in Europe, Benjamin Ites, the Chilean racer. They're a bit few and far between. Must be thinking, this is fantastic. But Pla will go as deep into the pit stop window as he can, because he is the driver with all the experience. So it'll be a while yet until Ites gets into that car. But if it comes in from 3rd position, that's a great run from Jim Pla.
Very much so. And I mean, that's what Jimmy Pla is there to do, is to consolidate the grid position that he earned, hand his car over, and then, of course, the rest is in the hands of our Chilean driver. Pushing it very hard. You can see you've got the 2 Audis all lining up behind Tamita and Charles Weerts, 4th and 5th respectively. Audi in Imola looked really impressive. There's been a couple of changes, obviously mechanical changes to improve the Audi, but also there have been some Pirelli updates to the tyre which may be assisting the Audis to a degree which maybe hadn't been seen before.
Yeah, they normally go pretty well at Misano, but it's a moving beast. Even if the cars look similar to last year, there are sort of changes, and so much can come from a different tyre compound, a tyre that just suits them, and also temperature dependent. But look, yet again with Gagnon, he's accelerating absolutely flat out, but it's just pulling away, and now at this point he starts to get the toe and he closes in again on the race leader. But Thomas Neubauer, unflappable.
Absolutely. I mean, he knows that the Bentley's catching him in the first part of the straight. In the second part of the straight, the strength the Lexus has come into play, and that gives him that fraction more of a second or 2 gap coming into turns 12 and 13 out of 14. Here through 15, there's nothing very much you can do. Just got to be sure you make a clean entry and a clean exit. It's more important to be slow out of 15, but get 16 right, get that drive done. Looking again, you can see what Gagnon's doing. He's trying to close the gap down, but here down to the braking, the Lexus just has got that fraction more pace. And I mean, if you're in that situation as a race driver, you're doing everything you can do, and there's still nothing left in the tank.
And just talking about turn 16, the final corner of the lap. In fact, this is the proof. The drivers have the sun right in their eyes. You can see fully illuminated the gap, the opening in the helmet for Chris Froggatt there, flying along, leading the Pro-Am class. In fact, he's got quite a big advantage now. The next car in line is also Pro-Am, but it's about 7 seconds further back. Valentin Pierberg second in class, and Louis Michiels in 3rd. Don't forget, Louis, though, had that spin on the 1st or 2nd lap of the race and is trying to fight back. But Chris Froggatt doing a fantastic job And Eddie Cheever III will be taking over. Gosh, there's a similarity when you look at the graphic there between Cheever 3 and Cheever 2,
Absolutely.
the one who raced with you in Formula 1, John.
Yeah, and of course, just picking up on what you were saying about the sun getting low, what's a little bit of action up. That is
What's a change for third place? Why has
Jimmy
Pla
Pla
made it so easy?
He's made 2 cars. Well, Jimmy Pla is in reality not in that race. He is in a race for the Silver Cup. But why would he have given it up so easily unless there was a mistake coming out of turn 3 in the run into turn 4? You didn't have to ask Tamita or Charles Furch twice as to whether they want to get past. So Jimmy Pla's gone from 3rd down to 5th. Don't know what the problem is. He again ran very wide coming through turn 13 into 14. So whether he's picking up a tire issue or whether there's I don't know. I can't imagine. He was always in clear air, so he doesn't have an overheating problem, that's for sure.
No, but the interesting thing there, extolling his virtues, you could say leading the Silver Cup class. And look at a replay. He just went too deep into the corner, didn't he, John?
He went a bit deep. He got very wide. He got onto probably the rubber on the outside of the corner, which basically means the grip that you have becomes a negative factor. You just lose all the grip. So I suspect maybe by having Tamita getting alongside, he gave a little bit too much room, and then Charles Furch didn't need to have that invitation asked twice.
Not at all, but the car that's leading the race is also leading the Silver Cup class for the younger drivers, and it's Thomas Neubauer, his teammate Aurélien Panis, looking to take it over at some point. But when you're leading the race, as you say, not getting overheated behind anybody else, stay there as long as you possibly can. And the fact that it was put on pole by Neubauer shows he's the man of the moment. But full marks for trying for Jules Gounon, but there hasn't been a gap in the armour.
No, I mean, so far I've not seen any error. The only error you could say was he was a little bit maybe slower off the start than Gounon in the Bentley. Now, look, Bentley can't get any closer to the back of the Lexus. I mean, but where is the space? Where's he going to? I mean, the Bentley is a physically large car. The Lexus isn't exactly a shrinking violet. But again, Gounon almost running into the back of the Lexus coming into turn 14. Neubauer seemed to get slightly ruffled. I don't know why. Just looked as if he lost track position fractionally. Maybe that's the pressure coming down the straight on that last lap.
It could be. The toe surely has to work at some stage. And again, past the pits this time. Super tight underneath, but there isn't going to be the space up the inside into turn 1. But he's a racing driver, Jules Gounon. He's got to keep hinting that he's going to be making a move. And in fact, the move will probably come in one which he doesn't hit, just does it. Yeah, but he's running out of time.
Yes, well, we're going to be in another 4.5 minutes. We're going to have the pit lane open. So which of these two might be the first into the pits? Well, that's going to be debatable. I suspect Jules Gounon in particular will want to stay out as long as possible. Whether Neubauer will do likewise is another matter, because Aurélien Panis will be in the car when he steps out. But on that last lap coming down the straight, clearly Gounon got a better run off turns 10, 9 and 10 and put himself into a position where he was almost able to get alongside into turn 12, but almost wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, maybe at the moment it's about putting those seeds of doubt into the mind of Neubauer, but he's leading the race beautifully. And again, his favourite point, accelerating out of turn 10 down the back straight, gains about half a car length, maybe a car length, and then the slipstream kicks in and you get Gounon closing in all over again. But last time he was closer than this time, so a little bit of breathing space for the race leader.
Yes, I mean, that was one lap ago. He was under pressure, and I think he was forced into an error as he goes into this corner, turn 14, and this time as Gounon runs wider on the exit, the Lexus a neater exit gets the power on again through turn 15. Both drivers using every little bit of racetrack and a bit more to try and maintain the speed out of 16. Both cars look virtually identical. You could barely split them in terms of exit speed. And again, the gap is fractionally more going on to the start of what is lap 15.
And in behind the two Audis in third and fourth positions, it's still Riachiro Tamita from Charles Wirtz. Gap between them half a second. It's been a really good run for the two teammates, and Jim Pla, obviously he's still rueing that error that moved him from third back to fifth. Arthur Rougier in number 25 is one of the few drivers who's made progress. He's moved ahead of Michael Grenier. No, he's still just behind. He's got both the Lamborghinis in front of him. In fact, there they are in 9th and 10th positions. Giacomo Altoe and Michael Grenier. Arthur Rougier, not so long ago, went ahead of the third car in the silver class. That's Joseph Owega. You can see that with the orange, the pale blue car with the orange stripe up its nose, sitting in behind.
And you've got Lamborghinis and Audis, all from the same VW Audi family. More or less identical straight line performance. The aerodynamic differences are probably not massive. But they're all running. It's like a, what do you call it, of bees, not a flock of bees, not a herd of bees. Swarm. That's it. Like a swarm of bees.
Running like a string of bees at the moment because they're lying astern. Arthur Rougier, one of the few who's managed to gain a position. But in a scrap as close as this, it can come at any moment. The driver's got to be fully on their toes. Rougier, you can see, is looking to make up ground. He's looking for instances in which he might be able to profit. But the two Lamborghinis in front of him from Emil Fry Racing doing a good stern job, running in 9th and 10th positions. 9th for Altoe, 10th for Grenier. Pit lane opens in 1.5 minutes.
So who will be first? And I think that both Neubar and Gugnon will stay out until the last possible moment. There's a car, we're slightly disappointed. Lucas Stolz, well, it's in 6th position.
It started 9th, John, so I think he's done a really good job, to be honest.
He has done a very good job. That all came in the opening lap or 2 laps, but nothing more. And he's now running the car he wants to get ahead of and catch up to is the silver Mercedes, Silver Arrows Mercedes, that of Jimmy Plough, which is running now in 5th place. So Mercedes in 5th and 6th place, and the car that's going to be taken over by Raffaele Marciello is down in 14th place. I mean, that's a big ask even for Marciello to do anything.
Well, for the driver of that, at the moment, Timo Boguslawski, he started 14th, is still running 14th, was at the back of the train, but has sort of fallen away a little bit. So it's not just 14th position, it's 14th position that's 5.5 seconds off the back of the train we're looking at now, with Palette in 13th at the back of this run. 1, 2, 3. There's Palette at the back of the run. Then there's the gap back to, unfortunately, to Timo Boguslawski.
Rougier is looking more and more convinced that he's going to nick that place from the Lamborghini, and Michel Grenier is going to start worrying because Rougier's got that pace, he's got the lap time. He just has to find a position on the racetrack where he can use it to full effect. There we are, coming down. And this back to our race leader into turn 16. So the gap has more or less, it's certainly still with under a second. It ebbs and flows by a couple of tenths every lap.
Right, the pit window is now open. It opened after the front runners went past, but anyone at the tail end of the field, the second half of the field, can dive in to make their one and only pit stop in this race if they want from now on. But for the race leaders, there was no intention to go in. They were just too early, come at what may. So let's run down the order. Thomas Neubauer leading from Jules Gugnon. So you've got Lexus from Bentley, French driver and French team from French driver and French team. Then the two Belgian Audi Club Team WRT entries, Riachiro Tamita and Charles Weerts. Jim Pla had run 3rd, he's fallen back to 5th in one swoop. But Tommaso Mosca, what a great run for him, for the Attempto Audi team in 6th place. And the first of the pit visitors in there early on, Lucas Stolz, very wise to it, HRT. He was just far enough back to be able to make that dive.
And Rougier likewise as well. One of the reasons for doing this, get in early, get back out. So there's almost a non-safe release. Other cars making their way in. What's going to happen when the leading group of cars, I'm going to say the top 6, come in? Well, we wait to see what the Lexus team will do with their service, what the Bentley team, CMR, will do with Gugnon. The two following cars are both WRT Audi cars. They are traditionally very, very efficient with their pit stops, driver changes, wheel and stop. So it might just be this race, the character of this race is going to be transformed. Not necessarily, the leader is in. So Neubar has gone in, releasing. Now, Gugnon has got the opportunity for the next, 7.5 minutes to make hay while everybody else is doing their pit stops. He now needs to nail what he knows is the potential the Bentley's got and build sufficiently, because he's been stuck behind the Lexus for, the best part of 27 minutes.
Yeah, the thing was, as soon as you saw that, the rear shot looking at the start finish straight, nobody in front of him. He's got no interruption. This is the golden hour for Jules Gugnon. Now, how good is the pit stop going to be for the number 15? Lexus going to be taken over by Aurélien Panis, and he is going to be putting as much pressure. I said the track was clear, but unfortunately, one of the SPS Mercedes, the Mad Panda Mercedes, has come out in front of. That's still out on the track. That's really unfortunate there for the race leader Jules Gugnon. He doesn't want that car still there, but that car. Where are the flags on the outside? All the tenths of seconds that could be gained are being squandered right now for Gugnon. He'll be livid.
And that will play arguably to the strengths now of the Lexus making its way down pit lane. But the fastest lap that the Bentley has done so far is 133.111. I was looking forward on this lap, obviously it's not going to be the case because of traffic, to see how much more pace is in the Bentley tank. So we're going to have to wait until Jules Gugnon completes this lap which is going to be lap 19, to see how much more of the performance that we weren't able to access because of the pace of the Lexus. He's in the pits too. So a quick stop now. Maybe the best thing is to follow the race leader. Oh, whoa, that was a bit slippy coming in. Get in, do your pit work. Maybe this is where Bentley can take the lead of the race. But in my view, keep an eye on those two Audis behind Charles Verts, and I think the other one's gone in. I think Tamita's gone in.
Yeah, well, what we need to see, of course, is what the track is like in terms of traffic when the Lexus gets back out and gets back up to speed, because certainly Ezekiel Perez or his car, the Mad Panda Motorsports Mercedes, did no favours at all there to Jules Gounon, who was out there to maximise his time, what he hoped to be a clear lap. Charles Verts is in number 32. That's going to be handed over to Dries van Tor. They're a fantastic pairing. They really have been shining in recent years and won one of the two races here last year. And Charles walks away into the back of the garage. Lost a bit of ground at the start, unfortunately for him. Was one of the drivers who got shoved a little bit wide in the first two corners. But back onto terra firma and the other WRT crew get him away nicely.
Bruce, what is very telling to me is Christopher Hasse, who has now taken over from Arthur Rouget, has on his outlap in that first sector done the fastest of anybody, a purple sector. Obviously, fastest middle sector. So Christopher Hasse, currently the car is in 13th position, just having rejoined the circuit, as we go back to who this car was dominating the race from the minute the lights went out.
So it's the turn of Aurelien Panis, but the fact is he's out behind and he's got, was that just dust going over the curves? I suddenly thought he had bodywork, but no, it's worked as you suggested it might do. The CMR crew have, despite being thwarted when Gounon tried to stay out for another lap, they've got him out ahead. That is fantastic pit work.
I mean, I love to see overtakes on the racetrack, but part of motor racing these days involves pit stops, driver changes, wheels, tyres. So now, much more comfortable position for the Bentley, with Nelson Panzacchini behind the wheel, so we will see. The Lexus is slowing down. Is that slowing down?
Well, maybe it is. It isn't just dust.
There's something coming from that's got a problem. Now, whether that was, he went over the grass coming out of turn 5 and kicked up a load of dirt behind. Suddenly, the car has slowed down, and that is, look up at the back of turn 10. So now the Lexus is in all forms of trouble. No, he's rebooted it by the looks of it. Whatever has happened, was that just a reboot that...
No, it's not still fully back up to speed, but well, again, he would have been accelerating from a low speed down the straight. But how cruel. Yes, the CMR crew had worked the wonders in the pits, but they were suddenly on the back foot when Gounon was being blocked the lap before he brought it in, but it swung their way, and now it really has comprehensively. The cars would be running at about bottom end of the top 10, seeing the Lamborghinis flash through, so this is probably just reporting back. The pit entry is coming up on the left, and unfortunately the Lexus is taking it. So Nelson Panzacchini, he must think this GT racing's pretty easy. Takes over the car from what was potentially second place, came out into the lead of the race, and the car that he'd be fighting against is suddenly disappeared from his rearview mirror, and he's now running, well, I have to see when they cross the start-finish line, the gap to the best of the rest. Not everybody's made their pit stop yet, just to confuse matters, because we've got Tommaso Mosca leading the race. But Panzacchini has got a huge advantage, about 8 seconds over Dries van Tor.
And my thoughts that WRT Audi are going to turn those two cars round, gain an advantage. Maro Engel dives down the inside.
Welcome to European racing. Benjamin Itez finds that Maro Engel doesn't take no for an answer. Didn't with Black Falcon.
No.
And the team has been rebadged for the remainder of this year as HRT, the Hout Racing team, and there we are. There wasn't even half a door open, but it was taken anyhow.
Dominic Baumann, currently running in 17th place, having just taken over the number 20 Mercedes, has just recorded fastest middle sector, and now that's been beaten by Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi, currently in 5th place. So van der Linde running directly behind by 1.5 seconds. Dries van Tor in the sister car, but Kelvin van der Linde, of those two cars, currently the quickest.
Yeah, Kelvin effectively in 3rd place, listed as 5th, but you can see one of the cars that was late to make a pit stop, the number 55 Attempto Racing car, and the Hamza brothers, the Awega brothers, Hamza's handed over to Yusuf, so they'll tumble down the order, but basically it's the Bentley out front. The pit window is still open, but very few takers. I think, in fact, everybody has made their pit stops, and it's worked beautifully for CMR. But
Real pain for Aurelian Panis and the Tech 1 racing crew having to come into the pit lane. Last of the pit stoppers coming back out on the track, but it's Bentley all the way at the moment. Who else is going to work their way to the podium? Certainly number 25 with Christopher Haas on the move. He'll be picking his way up the order. He's up to 8th at the moment. I think that will become 7th very soon indeed.
Well, the difficulty, 7th is being occupied by Frederick Vervies in the attempt of racing Audi. And on it goes. I mean, wherever you look, there's now class drivers throughout the field, whether they're in Audis or in Bentleys or wherever. And it's just going to be one of those, we've got 26 minutes, 26 and a half minutes of this race to go, as we see the 89 Mercedes, which is now in the hands of Benjamin Heatis, and he's going to find it. He's going to be, well, I wouldn't like to say he's going to be automatically falling back, but essentially his level of experience is still below that of those that are, going to give him a hard time, frankly.
Entirely so, and I mean, he's been racing in the North American Ferrari Championships, doing very well the last few years, but this is another level, and he's going to earn his spurs, and the fact he's doing it with the sun low in his eyes is not a helping hand. Oh, that's unfortunate there, John. Yeah. Very spectacular, not what the doctor ordered.
No, and I mean, he's got the Audi all over him like up the inside, coming into turn 16, out of turn 16, into turn 16. So, why did you get impatient? Now that was unnecessary, but there we go.
And that was Fred Vervies, and you really do not expect that from a driver of his experience, but Christopher Haas is hanging on.
Christopher Haas is the beneficiary of all this. Because and Haas has had to cut inside the corner. He's gained an advantage. He's got to give that back up. You can't overtake like that and not give it back up.
John, you've just lost all of your money and all of my money. You would not bet on Vervies and Haas, two of the most experienced racers in Audi R8 LMSs, both making a mistake in no time at all. Is that Mercedes putting out some oil or something? Because both the cars behind had moments when they came up behind the 89 Mercedes.
Not seeing anything, but clearly Christopher Haas was the beneficiary. But then coming through turn 2, he decided to dive down the inside. There we see, very, very tippy-toe going into turn 8. And the Mercedes has got good straight lines. Consequence was he undid all the work he had tried to do. So into 16. You've got to be absolutely wheel square with the car you want to get ahead of. Then you can control the corner. And Fred Vervies hadn't quite achieved that.
Just to complete the top 10, Norbert Siedler, you've got 2 Lamborghinis, 10th and 12th. Norbert Siedler, in between them, Raffaele Marciello. Remember him? He took over the car in 14th place. He's on pole for the first of the races tomorrow. He's caught the tail of this train. He's picked off one of the Lamborghinis. He's got a lot more to do in the background of the shot. White Mercedes with the blue nose on it, just about to come into shot behind the number 14 Lamborghini. So he's pushing on, but such a hard ask. 20-odd minutes to go in this race, and as you see, getting close is one thing, getting past John is quite another at Misano.
Absolutely, and this is one of the benefits and the attractions of racing here in the Autodromo, and up the inside. Oh, there we go, the inevitable happened. And
well, you had to feel for Heates there, because Vervies pulled across on him, because Drudy had gone up the inside.
Who drove into the back of the Mercedes? I can't say he was wrong on-sighted. That was careless.
Well, most unfortunate. Really had to feel for Heates. We felt that he was really, really getting on top of this battle. Now Vervies is up into that position, 6th place overall, and he was the innocent bystander. The move didn't involve him until he was hit, unfortunately, in the ACA ASP for Mercedes.
So we need to have a look at that once again, just to get a clearer view of where the responsibility lay for the Mercedes rotating, and just to compound it, one of the cars further back in the field, I think was the one of the Audis as well, then tagged the back of that Mercedes. So Fred Vervies has got the position, and what's that? Was a yellow flag?
Yellow, I was going to say, suddenly taking a different line, slowing the pace.
Yeah. So they're going to have to clear Heates' Mercedes from turn 8. Oh, you can see why. No wonder it didn't get hit. It got slammed. That right rear has taken a big hit, and frankly, the car that hit it could have done a lot better, because
the car that hit it was about 8 positions further back in that train of cars, but the others managed to get around or through it.
Correct. And with 19 minutes remaining, there it is. That's the 33. So who was behind the wheel of that?
That's Hamza of Vega.
Well,
driven really well, but unfortunately,
here we go.
Drudy goes up the inside of Vervies, hits the curbs.
It was Drudy that hit the back of the Mercedes.
Yeah.
And then that rotated. Look, there we go. I mean, you have to, when you're driving a racing car, I know it sounds pretty obvious, but you have to look further than the front of your car. You've got to look down the racetrack.
There must have been some body language of all the cars ahead as they
were seen spreading out, and he wasn't right under their tail. So unfortunate incident, but for Benjamin Hites, he's shown real class so far. That was a good run for him. It's going to go away without any points at all. But what it does mean for the race leader, Nelson Panciatici, no longer is he sitting on a 3-second advantage. That means under the full course yellow, Dries van Tor will be able to close up towards him. So chewing the nails in the CMR garage for Jules Gounon. But Nelson Panciatici, loads of experience, but most of it, John, has come in sports prototypes. This is a different ballpark.
It is, and having Dries van Tor, the next man in line, not just being, it was up to 7 seconds advantage first to second. Now it's going to be half of that, maybe even less than that. So when this race and racetrack go green, they've managed to get the Mercedes cleared pretty quickly. So there we see Helms's Audi is going to be pushed away. The damage to, I can't quite see, it looked to me like it should be well, around the front of the car, certainly the radiator area, oil cooling, water cooling. There is the damaged Mercedes, the right rear on that car, the suspension arm is broken. So Hites was unable to recover. Car being pulled back. Just want to make sure that there isn't any residue from bodywork carbon fiber in particular, which is the bane of modern race tires. There you can see the damage to the front. So quite a substantial hit. In the meantime, Bentley majestically continues on its way. Gap when they came across the line the last time was 6.3 seconds. Are we going to go into a full course yellow into a safety car intervention? So this is going to go into a safety car intervention, which will let the field all close down.
Nelson Panciatici will not be beside himself with delight at that, but it was fairly inevitable. Various messages bouncing around. We saw Christopher Haase gaining a lot of position and advantage. He then pulled clear by running wide at turn 2 off the track. He's under investigation for that. And 66, which is Fred Verviche, also under investigation for leaving the circuit. We saw him going very, very wide out of turn 16.
That's correct. I mean, he was halfway back to
the hotel.
Hotel, indeed. So that was a move to overtake. So you might say that was the byproduct. You can't blame a guy for having a go, but the consequence was, did he gain an advantage? I don't think he did. I think probably he actually lost out in that move. The one that has got to be investigated, and we need clarification on this. We wait for that judgment to come from the stewards, is Christopher Haase. Christopher Haase's attempt and then failure to give back the position that he gained by going inside of turn 2. And to me, that was a no-brainer.
Right, and one of the cars, number 66, are also under investigation for, that's Fred Verviche, for hitting the back of 89. That was the Mercedes that went spinning around. It was, he would know it was Drudy had gone up the inside.
Yes, but
and then Verviche moved across and tapped the tail of Hites that spun him round. Anyhow, under investigation.
Let's have a look at it again. I thought the action was Drudy going up the inside, just clipped the back of the Mercedes. So whether Fred Verviche was involved or not, like to see it again just before we, the sort of Damocles falls on whichever driver.
Well, you're right, John, because now it might have been another incident, because it's 55 that's under investigation for hitting 89, but in that incident it wasn't. That was 55 at the back. That was before. That was earlier.
Yeah, that was a lap earlier, maybe, or 2 laps earlier.
And don't forget, of course, we saw 55 being pushed wide at turn number 10 a short while before that, and lost several positions, had to go back behind the 66 sister car.
And this is going back to earlier in the race with Rouget. No, it wasn't. We're looking. So back, this is live now. So here is the Bentley.
And the cars behind were getting larger in his mirrors. The 2 WRT Audis, Dries van Tor, number 32 in second place, and 31, Kelvin van der Linde, who put in some very quick laps since he took over from Riachiro Tamita. But it's still the Bentley out front. The clock ticks down, under 15 minutes to go. We're 3/4 of the way through this race, but as you can see, the safety car is leading around. There was some liquid dropped. Remember, I thought it might have been coming out of the 89 Mercedes, because those around it were running a little bit wide. The cement dust has been put down already, and in fact, it was not this corner, which is turn 15, but turn 16, where in behind the 89 Mercedes with Hites at the wheel, we saw Verviche go really, really wide. And then later on, I think Drudy did as well on the loose stuff. Or, no, hold on, it was Christopher Haase, wasn't it? Went off at the 2 corners later at turn 2.
Well, he didn't go off. He chose.
Maybe because he didn't have enough grip to make the corner.
Whatever his decision was, something made him consciously turn left and cut across the inside. Whether it was track conditions, something else that it wasn't in his own control. But it looked to me as if at this point here,
he turned sharp on the screen as right. He cut inside, but the process of doing so, he gained position.
Yeah, certainly worth a study. Now here is where it all went wrong at turn 8. And Luca Drudi up the inside. You're right, John, I'm wrong. It was 89 being hit by Luca Drudi in 55, not 66. But then the 33 Audi came in and joined the party, but not in a good sort of way.
No,
slamming into the back and side of the spun Mercedes.
I think that the Hamza family might be getting a bill from ACA ASP for bodywork damage, mechanical damage to the back of the car. I mean, that was avoidable. I mean, I don't want to get on the case of the Hamzas, but certainly, in my opinion, I know I'm sitting in the commentary booth, I'm acting as an armchair quarterback, but that looked to me something that was easily avoidable.
Yeah, still seeing on our screens the incident between Benjamin Itez in 89 and the 55 Luca Drudi Audi under investigation. That might run and run. The clock keeps ticking down, though, and for Nelson Panciatici leading the race, the rear view from his car has 2 Audis close in behind. The Belgian Audi Club, Team WRTs of 32. Dries van Tor, a winner here 12 months ago, and Kelvin van der Linde tucked in behind. In 4th place, Mauro Engel. Quality crew. Lucas Stolz, Mauro Engel. That's a car that's gone forward consistently.
Bruce, this is going to be a real test of character of Panciatici to see how he's going to deal with Dries van Tor, who's going to deal with Kelvin van der Linde, who's going to deal with Mauro Engel, who's going to deal with Christopher Haase, who probably is under investigation. Forget about Vervies, Drudi, Gachet, Seidler and Marciello finishing, rounding out the top 10. It's going to be about the Bentley and the 2 following Audis, some getting even lower, and that's going to be a problem in some parts of the track, because it'll catch you probably at the most critical point of an entry to any one of these 16 corners.
Yeah, most notably to the final corner, turn 16. We all know good speed out of that corner gives you the blast down the short start-finish straight, but every bit of advantage you can get has to be grabbed with both hands. Out of turn 10, it's fine. The drivers are driving away from the sun. But at certain points when you really need to get the power down, you need to get your turning point just right, and a face full of sunshine in your eyes, not a helping feature. But right now, Nelson Panciatici sitting low in that Bentley, at least one more lap behind the safety car. But look at the crews in behind. The 2 Audis, Dries van Tor, Kelvin van der Linde, Mauro Engel. At some point, he may yet get to the podium, and that's not bad for a car that ended up down in about 9th place at the start of this race.
Bruce, be under no misunderstanding. With 11 minutes to go, well, when the safety car is finally brought back in the pit lane,
safety car in this lap.
So it's going to be about 10 and a bit minutes of nail-biting, door handle to rear bumper or whatever you want to. And it's going to be the charge by the 2 Audis behind the Bentley. It's exciting times.
Oh, it's going to be
exciting times.
John, it's going to be phenomenal down into turn 1.
It's going to be phenomenal every single corner on this lap, because you know for sure with the experience that Dries van Tor has and Kelvin van der Linde, they know what their job is. They know they've won races in GT3, previously in the Blancpain Championship, now in GT, although it's just going to be an unexpected pressure that Bentley had thought they had control over, and suddenly it's all gone away because of almost sort of a careless moment in turn 8.
Now, is it intentional or just hasn't got round to doing it? But the 4th car in the line, no headlights on for Mauro Engel. Maybe he's going to have a stealth attack. Almost everybody else, I think one of the Ferraris up at the tail of the field is also not showing illumination. No, the Sky Tempesta car is. Yes, the Bertolini car at the back of the field. Also without lights, running 15th overall. Let's just refresh. The safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Silver class is being led by Simon Gachet. And whose feet are those, we ask? It's car 93. Eddie Cheever the 3rd, 2 feet, 3 numbers after his name. But great to see what he's up to. But we'd like to see it when he's at full racing speed. Of course, this is behind the safety car, but the pace is picking up. There is his car, the Sky Livery.
What he's trying to do is accelerating, braking, getting temperature, trying to get temperature into the brakes, but primarily trying to get that heat soak from the brake into the wheel, into the tyre. So when this race goes green, which it's about to do as the cars exit out of turn 15, and you can see already Panciatici is up and running, but Dries van Tor has not let him get away.
Bit of a twitch through turn 15 from the race leader, Panciatici, and certainly in behind. Van Tor is getting very close indeed. He managed to gain a half car length there. Engel in 4th place, weaving around in the orange-black Mercedes. Kelvin van der Linde sitting in there in 3rd place, but into turn 2, very close indeed. But it's still the Bentley in front, and then a little more ponderous in terms of entry to turn number 3, but the Bentley maintains that position at the front of the field, but Vanthoor wants to unseat him, wants to go up the inside, can't do it at 4 or 5.
His best opportunity is going to be on this first racing lap since the yellow flag and the safety car have gone. If he waits and waits, it's going to go back to the flavour and the favour of the Bentley. But again, you can see the Bentley has just got that little bit of advantage over the Audi coming down to the turn. But look, Vanthoor makes a lunge up the inside, has a bit of a body rub. Now watch for Kelvin van der Linde. Thought he was going to come through as well, so didn't. I said it would have to happen on the opening lap after the safety car. Pantacicci trying to come back. He's got his best chance, but up the inside, Kelvin van der Linde. So and now the Mercedes likewise. So Bentley's been mugged. Plain and simple, it's been mugged.
Well, quite simply, what happened there was Dries Vanthoor thought, I'm GT through and through. You're a driver, Pantacicci, who's been racing in sports prototypes. You're quick, but this is what we do in GT racing, up the inside. And it was inevitable that van der Linde would follow through, because through the next few corners, particularly through turn 9, the Bentley was out wide and the Audi, the second Audi, went through and in behind. Christopher Haas getting a knock on the tail, side by side, but unfortunately only half a car length back, and unfortunately for Haas, he's lost position there. Mauro Engel hangs on, but Haas does not give up through turn 16, side by side with the Attempto car. I think that's Matteo Drudi, or is it Fred Verbisch? He's not asking questions right now, he's trying to keep them behind.
Well, that's getting really rough, and that mid group, got 4 or 5 Audis and the Lamborghini, so 55's got to back out of it. So that was Bean, is that Matteo?
That's Matteo Drudi.
Yeah.
And behind, who's sensing place game? Possibly, well, it'd be Rafa Marciello, of course.
But he's got that sort of, it's almost like a brood of Audis. Can he find a way? He's on the outside of turn 3, turn 4, hasn't got the position to be able to get up the inside into 6. So struggled, I mean, when you've got cars so closely, all fighting for the last little centimetre of space on the racetrack, and you've got a big car, you're looking to plant it where you want to go, and the second before you get there, you're just fine. Somebody else has taken that bit of racetrack.
Well, that was really, really positive attack from Dries Vanthoor in the lead of the race. He won it, one of the 2 races here last year, sharing with the same driver, Charles Weert. So clearly they love Misano. Can he stretch his legs clear? But he's being chased by his teammate, Kelvin van der Linde. It's about half a second between them. Pantacicci must be ruining what happened down into turn 8. Just didn't get it in early enough to close the inside line.
But it was, that's the difference between commitment and caution. And Pantacicci was marginally cautious. I'm not blaming him for it. It was the right thing to do. But Vanthoor's got the knowledge, experience of an Audi over 4 years, and he had the commitment, and he made the move. He lunged down into the apex, and once he got alongside the Bentley, it was effectively a done deal. There was no way the Bentley was going to come back, and that in turn allowed Kelvin van der Linde, who's sitting back reading it like a book, to say, I want a bit of that action as well, and if I could do the same to the Bentley up into turns 9 and 10, I could take that second position for myself.
But not only have those 2 Audis got to the front of the race, they're 1.2 seconds clear of the Bentley. The Bentley just doesn't have the answers. It's now under attack, 5 and a bit minutes remaining, and in behind Mauro Engel, number 4, the bright orange car, getting closer and closer, but he's got to be on his toes because Christopher Haas is tucked in behind the white, yellow and black Audi, also making a real fist of it. For now, the Bentley's third. It was first, but it's been overtaken by the 2 Audis at the front of the field, the Team WRT cars. Dries Vanthoor, half a second to the good over Kelvin van der Linde, and the clock is very much his friend. 5 minutes and there's a bit of small change remaining.
Yeah, and I thought possibly this scenario we're looking at now, Audi 1 and 2, might have occurred during the pit stop, the round of pit stops, but both Bentley and Lexus did outstanding jobs, got back and controlled their positions. But now, after the safety car being returned, that is why people like Dries Vanthoor, because not only is he quick, he's a racer. A lot of people are racing drivers, but he's a racer. He made that situation. He knew he had 1 lap to make it stick, because the initial restart that Pantacicci might be a marginally more cautious, he read it perfectly, and all you can say is Dries Vanthoor, how he has matured.
Oh, and how. But, you know, the thing there, he also knew that initial acceleration, Bentley looks really fine coming out of corners. Not as good, of course, as the Lexus that we forget has retired from the lead of this race, or came out in second place after the pit stops and immediately retired. But the Audi's super quick through the tight turns, and as soon as he could make that move, he got the job done. He was very tight through turn 6, going onto that infield straight, and had enough momentum to get onto the tail of the race leader, and then obviously pulled off that move down the inside. Matteo Drudi in 55 still fighting tooth and nail with his Attempto Racing teammate. That's Fred Verbisch right in front of him in 66. great entertainment, but frustration for the pair of them, don't forget.
Almost to the level. I mean, they were involved in that moment with the 89 Mercedes. Whether they lost momentum or not is probably irrelevant. They've not made any further progress, and so they're hanging back, fighting for 6th and 7th positions right now. Simon Gachet in 8th place, keeping them on their toes.
Yeah, they were higher up, but then again you get caught out in the battle and you can lose out. It's that tight in the GT World Challenge. But the first two, Vanthoor and Kelvin van der Linde, they're now nearly 1.5 seconds up on the Bentley, and the Bentley with Pancetici has Maro Engel attacking, and now talking attacking. Of course, it's the Attempt 2 cars you need to look to.
And Trudy's managed to get the job done, gotten past Fred Vervisch, so that's a position change for 6th place. So 55 is up to 6th, and 66 is on to 7th.
You might say, does it matter if you're not on the podium? Of course it matters. We've got 3 races here this weekend, 2 at the next 2 meetings, and 3 at the finale, and every point gained is going to count. It's so close in the GT World Challenge that the drivers know that, and it's also inter-team battling.
And I mean, this is the second live event we've had within the SRO family, and it's as if these guys, what are they doing for the last 6 or 7 months? Some of them have been sim racing, but here they are, back on it, absolutely driving the wheels off.
And come what may, whatever the result, they're all going to just have that smile on their face. Now they're doing what they do. But Matthias Rudy has been hunting and hunting, and let's take a look. That is a phenomenal move from the fastest of the Audi drivers at the moment. The driver who's got to the front of the race, Dries Vanthoor, just mugged Nelson Pancetici.
In Bruce, in fairness, the Bentley hung way out on the right-hand side of the racetrack. He almost sent an invitation through the post for Dries Vanthoor to dive down the inside. That was made easy for Vanthoor. Now look again, you see, just getting his elbows out, Kelvin van der Linde got into position. Okay, there's a very, very marginal swipe as Pancetici had to move a bit to the right to avoid something more of a substantial. Came back, almost got himself up into a position. But here, Vanthoor has to slow down to make the turn, to make his apex, which in turn allows van der Linde to close the gap, so there's nowhere for the Bentley to go.
No, absolutely so. I mean, you could say he was mugged, but he had no choice. He was going to be pushed wide there by Kelvin van der Linde. So first became second became third. He was a passenger in all that.
Bruce, he got mugged. Not once, twice. But that's motor racing, guys. Let's wake up and smell the coffee. That's what it's about. It's not a Sunday evening or a Saturday evening drive near the Adriatic and going out and having a nice time, a bit of dinner later. This is a motor race.
Well, final lap of the race, just squeaked onto it. Might have been a few seconds faster, might have got one more, but with 34 laps on the board, an advantage of 3/4 of a second. Dries Vanthoor ahead of his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. And then Nelson Pancetici 2.6 seconds further back, and just under a second clear of the orange Mercedes from HRT. And that's being pushed very hard. That's Maro Engel being pushed by the yellow, white and black Audi of Christopher Haase, who's maybe going to make a move up into turn 8. We've seen plenty of action into this double apex left-hander, but to the outside line on the way in, but then hoping to cut underneath it on the way out goes Christopher Haase. In behind, he's got Matthias Rudy, who's been very, very busy in this race. Lost out in a couple of battles, but the last couple of laps have been good for him. He got past his teammate Fred Vervisch, not finding a way past Christopher Haase though. But we're not at the end of this, the final lap. But it's going to be victory surely for the Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT. And enough of advantage for Dries Vanthoor ahead of his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. They'll be on the top 2 steps of the socially distanced podium in the Parc Fermé. We'll see that very soon indeed. But it is going to be a Team WRT victory. Well earned indeed for Dries Vanthoor, because he saw the opportunity, didn't wait to be asked twice. He's now approaching turn 16 on this 16-turn track. Big battling in behind, but it looks though Engel is safe in 4th place. But for Team WRT, 1st and 2nd places, Dries Vanthoor leading Kelvin van der Linde over the line, and importantly for Bentley, they at least achieve a 3rd place. Don't forget, this is a customer team in the Bentley camp now. So accolades to CMR. Didn't happen for them today, but it is a question of ifs and buts. It was a safety car, they lost their 3-second lead. But Team WRT, they smelt the blood almost, and they came a-hunting.
I mean, you have to say there's the difference between experience on the racetrack and experience on the racetrack. And WRT, Audi, Dries Vanthoor, they've been here many, many times. Pantanici, first time here at Misano, and certainly in a GT3 car. But it was the restart, the element of caution, which is not a criticism, it's simply just a matter of fact. And the attacking sort of brio of Dries Vanthoor, he knew his best chance was coming on that restart lap.
He saw the opportunity because it was given to him going into turn 8. Gtwc didn't need to be so far over to the right to take that corner. The fact is he was. Dries van Thor saw it. Thank you very much. Job done.
Well, you said it, he did it. And just to run down, the Silver Cup class was won by Simon Gachet, Santalot Racing, sharing with Stephen Paulette in 10th place overall. Pro-Am honours did go to the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari. Eddie Cheever the third, bringing it home. Chris Froggatt started it. So a good run for them in the various categories. But out-and-out winners today, the two Belgian Audi Club Team WRT Audis. There they are as the sun sets over Misano. Charles Weerts did the starting stint, and Dries van Thor very much did the finishing stint. 8/10 of a second clear of their teammates. But to Riachiro Tamita, what a start for him in European racing, sharing the car in second place with Kelvin van der Linde. Jules Gounon and Nelson Panciatici, what might have been if it hadn't had that safety car period. Third for Bentley, but we all still feel for the Tech 1 racing team. Broken radiator, we understand, or a failed radiator just after the pit stops. They've led the race under severe pressure. But I'm afraid for Thomas Neubauer, who started from pole, Aurélien Panis, no points for them today. But they showed promise, John.
Oh, yes. Bruce, that promise was seen back in Imola 2 weekends ago. The car was very, very competitive there. Here in Misano, if that car was able to start from the front row of the grid for either of tomorrow's two races, it's going to be in a similar situation. It's just got the best balance of performance and handling of the entire field.
Well, it certainly looks incredibly composed, but it's not starting so close to the front of the grid tomorrow. In fact, it's way down the order in 15th place, so it's going to be a different day, a different story. We've still got qualifying for the third of the races, the second of the races that we have here in Misano tomorrow, to be undertaken on Sunday morning at the circuit. But right now, the sun is setting over the circuit. The temperature is starting to drop. But for Team WRT, as they drive the cars into Parc Fermé, they have done the job. They have delivered. It didn't look as though it was going to go their way after qualifying, when the best place of their cars was only 4th and 5th on the grid. But they brought them home in 1st and 2nd positions. And for Charles Weerts and for Dries van Thor, job very well done. That's the car in number 1 position.
They've done the biz.
They've
done the biz. That's what it's about. It's about who comes first. How you get there, well, that's nice to sit round a dinner table or a bar and have a chat about. But Dries van Thor, great effort. Charles Weerts, absolutely delighted, because that was a super team effort. But to me, the quality and the class that Dries van Thor has developed, is evolving, still evolving, is very impressive indeed. Vincent Vos, the boss of the WRT Audi team, I can imagine couldn't be happier. Victory in Imola, victory here in the first of 3 races this weekend.
And it's amazing, in any sport, confidence breeds success. If you feel you're expecting to win, you're going to make it happen. And certainly Dries van Thor was not expecting to come second. He might have done had there not been the safety car period. It brought the Bentley right onto his bonnet, and he knew he had to maximise, and he did precisely that in the sort of style that a proper attacking racing driver would really, really go for. But he did it. You could look at it, but you got to do it.
As I say, there are racing drivers and there are racers.
So let's go down and hear the thoughts of the winning duo, Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor.
Dries, that moment at the end there, really, you saw the opportunity at that safety car coming in, and you really gave the Bentley no other choice.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I was happy that there was a safety car. And then I saw he was a bit struggling on the first push laps. So yeah, I tried to get my moment, and he made a small mistake going into 6. And I went for it. Luckily he gave me space, and it went well. I mean, it was also nice to see that my teammate got through as well in the next corner. So it's a very nice 1-2 for WRT.
Absolutely. The Audi really seemed to have the pace throughout the session. Charles, you've been quick all weekend.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying was not bad. Not exactly what we wanted, but it was still fine. Then, the pole start, lost some position, then I gained it again. One overtook Lucas in turn 8. Pace was good. Then, I was behind the teammate, so no risk. We had the guys in the pit stop did an amazing job. I think his out lap and my in lap was pretty good also. We got P2, and safety car helped. So yeah, really pleased with the results.
A fantastic weekend all around for the WRT team. Congratulations, well done, boys.
Thank you.
Well, let's see what they can manage tomorrow. What I like there, John, you could just see out of shot when Dries van Thor had stopped his interview. that someone went past with a white and green race suit and said, well done, tapped him on the shoulder. That was Jules Gounon. His car got passed by him, but he's still gentlemanly enough to say, that's racing. We'd do it to you if we had the opportunity.
Oh, and you're absolutely right, Bruce. I mean, that level of sportsmanship is great to see. I mean, Jules did a brilliant job getting the lead eventually, and when the car came out, it was their race to lose. Who would have thought, who would have imagined the turn of events that came with, 15 minutes before the race, the checkered flag came out? But those are other facts, and that's what motor racing, you never know until the checkered flag falls. You can have a comfortable lead, but it can be taken away due to safety car interventions or issues on track.
Yeah, and in qualifying, the Lexus that started from pole and that number 107 Bentley were the class of the field by 0.4 of a second, which is a lot in this category. The first half of the race, they pulled clear of those behind and were in a race of their own. It didn't come to either of them, so it shows there's always a slip between cup and lip, and things can change, particularly at a circuit like Misano, where the corners come at you thick and fast. And also the other factor, John, let's not forget, is the sun was low in their eyes, made it really difficult, and there were a fair few mistakes up into turn 16. The same for everyone. As you can see, the sun has now disappeared over the horizon, so changing circumstances pretty much every lap.
Yeah, I mean, it is always an issue when you're going from daylight into dusk, into darkness. It's the same the other way around when you're going from darkness into dawn. And I mean, 24-hour races, one of the issues on those races is you get it at night time when it's getting dark, the lights are going out, and you get it in daytime when the lights are still on, then it's coming light and the lights go out. It's one of the hazards, but it's the same for everybody. And frankly, I mean, you ought to, if you're a professional driver, you should be able to cope with those situations. The only thing is if there's an issue that catches you in a blind spot, which sometimes the sun momentarily can do. I know, driving up the hill to my home, at certain points in the year, at certain times in the day, the sun hits me, and I have to drive at the speed limit then.
Exactly so. But anyhow, but also there are many circumstances that can happen. But just to reiterate, double victory, or first and second place for Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, and the best place their cars is Kelvin van der Linde's in second place on the grid tomorrow. But they will have a different challenge in the first of tomorrow's two races, because on pole is Raffaele Marciello. This evening he only managed to get up to, lost him on the sheets, up to 9th place overall. The car started 14th, so it's really a tale of two very different races. We still have the grid to be set for the third of those races as well, which will be tomorrow morning. But plenty more to come at Misano, but a really cracking first of 3 sprint races this weekend.
I mean, the big advantage for Raffaele Marciello is that starting at the front, that when the car comes in for the mandatory pit stop, then it's going to make it an easier job for Timo Boguslawski to make to consolidate, let's say, or make some progress. But when you're stuck maybe in the middle or the back half of a field on this type of racetrack, there's really little you can do. You rely on other drivers' mistakes or circumstances, again, intervention with a full course yellow, then a safety car. So it's a very, very busy racetrack. And it's only when you see a move like Dries van Thorp pulled off that you realize that there is that little bit more scope for creative thinking. And of course, Pensacici, in a way, made it slightly easier than it needed to be. And I think he was very generous in allowing that amount of space on the entry into turn 8.
Well, the drivers, it looks like they get to choose their trophies, but they'll be the third place crew. Jules Gounon and Nelson Pensacici have been given the ones that be the bronze medals, effectively. Third place today, but useful points. And for the CMR team, they'll be very pleased indeed with that.
That was a stellar performance. What happened in the closing laps put it down to experience. But the team did a great job in battling with the Lexus all the way through to the pit stops. Super pit stop by the team, got the car turned around, got it back out again, ended up leading the race by a country mile until the safety car intervention, full course yellow, then safety car.
So waiting for the call up for Riachiro Tamita. What a start for his European racing career. He's on the right-hand side of the shot, and the tall South African Kelvin van der Linde, always a star in an Audi. Second place today, right on the heels of the race.
I tell you, Bruce,
leading teammates. Could easily be in victory.
I'd like to know what Tamita-san weighs, because he probably weighs a little more than an oily rag. When you imagine, okay, Kelvin van der Linde probably must weigh another 10, 12, maybe 15 kilograms, but you've got somebody as small and as light as Tamita in the car. There is actually a marginal, not a huge amount, but a marginal performance gain.
Well, he's landed, he's shown he's quick in individual laps, but also really good in racing. But then again, GT300 in Japan is very, very competitive. He's used to crowded tracks. This was a crowded track, and he didn't blink.
Did a super job. Very impressive entry. Look forward to seeing what happens tomorrow in qualifying, and then ultimately in the 2 races that are going to follow.
But leading applause to the leaders today. Charles Weerts leading out, and Dries van Tor, who brought it home. Victory. It looks like a really strong season is on the cards for them. Such a well-balanced pairing, these 2 Belgian racers. And of course, this is a 2020 style podium with social distancing. It's driver pairings at a time to stand in the paddock, not on the steps of the podium any longer. We will get used to it. And for Team WRT, delight as well. There we are. Not just first, but first and second.
Charles Weerts sort of not quite sure which way his victory sign should, as the Belgian anthem is played out.
So celebrations all round for Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, scooping first and second places. Light falling away in the paddock at Misano. The cars arrived, there was a bit of sun in the paddock. That has now disappeared behind the buildings, and shade is falling. But that was a race that needs a fair degree of digestion. Plenty was happening, John.
Well, the teams will certainly do that. There'll be debriefings. The cars, of course, are in Parc Fermé. They have to remain there until they're released by the race stewards. Then they will have to be prepared, because they're back on track again. 8 o'clock in the UK, 9 o'clock in Europe. It'll be a very short night for a lot of the teams, particularly those that might need, in the case of the 89 Mercedes, that's going to be needed to be repaired. The car is still not back in the Mercedes, in the ASP garage.
Well, another car we saw was the sister Bentley. That pulled off on the opening lap. They had to get that back. It's not back in the paddock as yet. Now, in the Silver Cup class, Mad Panda Motorsport, Ezekiel Perez compact with the beard and his new teammate in behind the Zimbabwean racer, Axel Jeffries. They step to the podium. 3rd place in the Silver Cup class for younger drivers. In fact, I beg their pardon, that's second place trophy
yes, it is,
in class, because 3rd went to the Awegas, who didn't get to finish the race after the front end damage for clattering into the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes. So 2nd place in the Silver Cup class, my apologies to the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes crew, but it was Audi that took victory, the Sansalot Racing crew, Simon Gachet and Simon Palette.
Been a bit of a sort of clean sweep, you know, cleaned up and race victory, winning what you might loosely describe as the pro category, and here they are now cleaning up on the silver. So in the Pro-Am, well, they haven't cleaned up in the Pro-Am. It's going to be Eddie Cheever, Chris Froggatt in the sky-backed Ferrari 488.
So for Sansalot Racing, they get the Silver Cup first place prize, the Silver Cup winning €10,000. And for Stephen Palette and Simon Gachet, they always seem to go well at Misano. Very good partnership. And for Sansalot, a French national anthem. So applause there for the silver winners, Sansalot Racing Audi crew, Stephen Palette and Simon Gachet. They'll be back to fight again for 2 races tomorrow. This is a 3-race format as the season is compressed by the pandemic, but great to be back racing and great to be back here at Misano. But let's take a look at the start of the race. A brilliant start from the outside, the front row. Jules Gounon got the nose, the green Bentley into the lead of the race, but taking no for an answer was Thomas Neubauer, who insisted he was going to stay in the lead of the race. Not a great start from pole, but he was ahead when it counted. Those behind were the ones having contact. And then up front, it was hunting the 89 Mercedes. Made a bit of a mistake there, Benjamin Hites. But up front, absolutely brilliant racing between Neubauer and Panis. Running really well in the Pro-Am class. Chris Froggatt handing over to Eddie Cheever Jr. But what we had was the Bentley staying out for an extra lap. See if he could gain an advantage. Ended up behind the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. It cost him time. However, when he reported to the pits and made the pit stop, he came out and he was in front of the Lexus. It looked as though the job was done. Then it got very busy between the Mercedes in the closing stint of the race. Benjamin Hites was being put upon. 89 being pushed left and right, but holding his ground. However, it did come to a few more blows later on. Temto Audis, that's Nicholas Scholl going through. In fact, there's Fred Vervish, the teammate, going through, running wide. What's something on the track at the next corner? Look, the yellow-white Audi in behind Christopher Haase just ran off, gained a position. He thought he might have to give it back, and then Benjamin Hites got hit as this 55 Matthias Drudy dived up the inside of Fred Vervish. He was spun around, and then he was collected. And that would bring out a safety car, and all of the field would have to bunch up, which was very bad news indeed for the race-leading Bentley. Nelson Panciatici had taken it over, and when the race got underway all over again, he was at the front of the field, but it was clear that those behind were going to make their pounce. And WRT struck, and through to victory came Dries van Tor. Second place to Kelvin van Linden. Very good job. The Bentley took third.